sports fans, and welcome to the Championship Week edition of Foul Territory. I'm your host, Mike Smith. Well, it's been a great season. We've had a lot of ups and downs, but finally, it's time to decide once and for all who's the top team or top teams in the NYCMBL. We've got a pair of championship series going on this weekend. In the Single A, we've got the Elm Jack Dodgers taking on the Nassau Yankees, who are making their second title series appearance in as many years. In the Double A division, we've got the favorites, the Bronx D-backs, taking on the upstart New York Storm, who have rallied back from being an 8 seed and are looking to stake their claim as the top dogs of the Double A division. All right, so before we get to the Double A Championship Series, we're going to do a little Single A talk, something we haven't done a whole lot of this year. And I actually got someone to come on, a Single A expert. Didn't want to give up his real name, but he goes by the Kaiser on the forum, and he's here to talk about the Nassau Yankees against the Elm Jack Dodgers championship game. How's it going, the Kaiser?
I'm doing all right, Mike. Thanks for having me. I was just practicing my opera singing a little bit, and I'm glad you caught me because I think my voice is going to run out and we wouldn't be able to do this podcast if this wasn't done now. So thanks for giving me a call.
No problem. So obviously, you played in Single A. You saw a lot. Before we get into the championship series, which I'm sure everybody is very excited to talk about, I wanted to touch or to pick your brain rather on what you thought the Cy Young and MVP considerations were going to be moving forward in the Single A division this year.
Okay, I'll start with the Cy Young. For my money, I got to go with Mervyn Guillermo of Too Hot. He threw more innings than any of the other candidates for the Cy Young at about 66, had 91 strikeouts and a whip just over 1 with a 1.7 or something like that ERA. Just dominant stuff. Guy throws pretty hard, got a nasty slider, and he was a winner. He went 8-2 this year. You got guys like Julian Montserrat of the Prospects, who also had a good year, and last year's Cy winner, Danny O'Brien, who had a minuscule .22 ERA. But again, those guys saw a lot more limited action, and I think you got to consider the larger sample size. So I'm going to have to go with Guillermo. I mean, he single-handedly took Too Hot from the cellar or near the cellar to a number 3 team in Single A.
Now, when you're looking at that, looking at something like the innings pitched, when you're thinking about who your Cy Young vote, if you had one, would be, does the importance to the team play a factor? For instance, do you think that the Dodgers would be fine, or not fine, without a guy like Danny O'Brien, but he was really instrumental to Too Hot's success this year?
Absolutely. I mean, Too Hot was stacked with their lineup, but after Guillermo, I mean, you had Brian Class, who was pretty solid, and a few other guys that came in, but without Guillermo, I think you're talking about a 500 team around there, give or take. But I think I wouldn't go so far as saying he's an MVP candidate because I think you got to factor in hitting. But yeah, he definitely contributed. His WAR is pretty solid, even though I'm not smart enough to talk to you like that.
Well, I don't even know what that stands for, so I'm not one of those new baseball sabermetrician guys. But talking about MVP stuff, in your mind, who was kind of the front runner? Would you say for the MVP?
Well, got to go back to Too Hot. I have to give full disclosure. I played last fall for Too Hot. Got to give it a shout out to my boys, Elvin and Rico Imot. But you got to go with Felix Cruz, the center fielder for Too Hot. He batted almost 500 this year, had 32 RBIs in 23 games. And I know RBIs are overrated, and we could talk about that all day. But, I mean, the guy hit 478, 33 hits, played flawless defense in center, no errors. The guy was an impossible out. Only struck out a couple times all year. Barely walked, but it didn't matter. He the guy would flick his wrist, the ball would end up on the warning track or it'd be gone. He was just an impossible out all year, and he set the table for Too Hot, and everyone around him. He made people better. He took charge in the outfield. I think this is just a no-brainer. You got to go with Felix Cruz for MVP.
Now, in terms of him playing a good center field, when when you're looking at MVP candidates, how important is that, playing a premium defensive position and playing it well? In this league, it seems like, great fielders are hard to come by. So was that a big factor in you coming up with him?
It's not the biggest factor. There's a lot of guys that play a lot of good D, and there's a lot of good hitters. But I think that the fact that he was such an outstanding hitter, plus he was an above-average fielder, I think it just kind of was the tiebreaker of sorts for me. But I think in single A, the offense is really what makes an MVP candidate, unless someone's just lights out at short or center or catcher. I didn't really see any of that all year, but at the plate, he was just leagues above everyone else. So, normally I would consider defense a little to be more important, but he was just too good at the plate.
Which kind of brings us to the topic du jour, which is the Nassau Yankees. You got the Elm Jack Dodgers. It's the Single A championships. Now, one of the things that I find most interesting about this matchup is that both teams have a number of guys who have been through these wars before. You look at the Nassau Yankees, and they're kind of carried by Russ, the Von Reagan Express Fury, who's pitched in this league, probably since he was born. I mean, this kid was, a Cy Young. I believe he won the Cy Young. I know he's pitched in a couple championship series. You've got him, and you've got Greg Daniek, who, arguably one of the highest win totals in league history. So you've got those guys who have been here before. On the other side, you've got Alex Shepard, Stephen Morgan, those guys who won a title with the Elm Jack Blue Jays back in 2008. Both of these teams seem to find ways to win games late. I know looking at the Game 3 of the Yankees series with the Knights, they came down from 4 runs to win the game 8-7. And I know that in the first round, the Dodgers did kind of the same thing against the Queens Mets. So what do you think about these teams' ability to battle and play from behind?
Well, let's start with the Dodgers. I'm quite intimate with that Mets-Dodgers series there. That series was actually a 2-game sweep by the Dodgers, but it was a great example. Like you said, these two teams refused to quit and fight all the way. These are some of the toughest teams in the league. As for those Dodgers games, they started the aforementioned O'Brien on the mound with his he had given up 1 run all year. And the Mets put up a really hard fight in that series. They came out with 3 runs in the first inning, which is 2 more than O'Brien had given up all year, and they managed to put up 5 over the course of the game. And if it weren't for a couple of late defensive miscues, I think the Mets would have won Game 1 over O'Brien. And same thing in Game 2. The Mets had the lead for most of the game, but the key was that the Dodgers did not quit. You never saw them getting quiet in the dugout, slumping their shoulders, chins down. Everything was 100% confidence from the very first pitch. And there was some timely hitting by some of these veterans that you mentioned. Shepard and Morgan were just thorns in the Mets' side. There was nothing that you could do to get them out late in the game. Clutch hits down the right field line, up the middle, places where good hitters hit the ball in those kinds of situations. And in both games, they took it to the Mets when it counted. It was just a great example. The pitchers didn't give in as well. It's just a complete team. I think there might have been fewer than 3 errors in the 2 games, which is pretty solid.
One of the things that I wanted to say about the Dodgers, obviously the Blue Jays and the Mud Hens going back had been, had quite a good rivalry, but watching guys like Morgan and Shep with this predominantly younger team, against the Titans in the first inning, I was watching Daniel Bryan getting squeezed terribly by the umpire. I think he walked something like 4 guys. He'd walked maybe 6 all year, something like that. O'Brien was getting frustrated, and it took these kind of veteran guys, your Morgans, your Shepards, Jerome Slaughter. They kind of calmed down the younger guys and I think made the game simpler for them. I think that's going to help them going forward. But, just in terms of what the Dodgers bring to the table, they've had great pitching numbers all year. What are your thoughts on the staff?
Staff's solid. I mean, O'Brien gets all the credit, but you got Brissa, who has a pretty nasty curveball, and he keeps the ball down. Totally underrated. I haven't got to see their other pitchers, but just looking at their numbers, I believe Mongiori didn't give up a single run this whole year. Their entire staff has an ERA just above 1, so that tells you something.
And in terms of their hitters, I mean, we touched on Morgan and Shep, but who are the guys that the Yankees really have to worry about?
Pretty much everyone on the entire team. I'm not going to lie. I mean, 1 through 8 is batting 333 or above. There's just no way around it. You're stuck. Your worst hitter in their starting line is batting about 260, and that's not even that bad. And you guys, your top guys like Morgan and Mongiori, Carboni, Shepard are batting about 400, and they walk too, which is really scary. You can't even pitch around these guys. I don't know what you do if you're the Yankees. I mean, you got your veteran arms, which I think they'll have a game plan, but it's going to be a really tough battle for the Yankees pitching staff.
Now, I haven't really looked at the stats too much, but I know that one of the things that we had spoken about before the podcast was the ability to run. And the Blue Jays have definitely shown that this year with Shepard. I think Oni Franco's got himself double-digit steals. Is that going to come into play this series?
Absolutely. Dodgers run, and they don't stop running, and they're smart base runners, too. I mean, a single turns into a stolen base, which in my mind is a double, and they have about 10 doubles a game, plus the real doubles. It's just bad news. You got to have your catcher's got to be on target. If you're the Yankees, got to keep the running game in check. Have your pitchers be stepping off the mound, throwing over hard. Otherwise, the Dodgers will just run all over you.
Well, now in terms of you mentioned the veteran pitchers, and the Yankees have 2 guys who I've played with in Daniak and Fury. They seem to be a very strong pitching staff. Those guys pitched in AAA in limited roles last year. They've been mainstays in the AA for years. What are your thoughts on what they can do to neutralize these Dodger bats?
Well, like you said, I think they know how to pitch. They know how to come in and out. They know how to go up when you need to go up the ladder. They know how to change speeds. I think that you need pitchers like that to even have a chance against this Dodgers lineup. You can't just have throwers up there. And based on learning the history of the Yankees and these guys and seeing it out there for myself this year, you do got at least a couple good pitchers who just know how to pitch, and that's the only chance they're going to have to neutralize the lineup.
And in terms of what the Yankees bring to the plate offensively, who are the guys that O'Brien and crew should be worried about in this series?
Several guys. You got a couple of veterans, too. You got Mark Perez, who just mashes. He had about 20 RBIs this year. Tremaine Purvis is a great defensive center fielder. He batted well over 500 last year and had another solid year this year. You got Kenny Barbosa, who I think he actually plays center field. I might be mixing them up, but just to go off topic there for a second, the center field and left field by the Yankees, they lock it down. If you hit a ball up in the air in those directions, it's going to be caught. So that's going to be another factor for the Dodgers to consider.
Well,
going back to the lineup.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's a side fact. I actually play touch football with Kenny Barbosa in the off season. And that guy can fly, man. I mean, straight up, he can fly. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, he can. He hit one that I thought was going to be a triple out of the box, and he ended up catching it with a nice little smile on his face, and he looked like he'd gotten comfy enough to do some stretches underneath the ball before it got there.
And so what else? I mean, what type of team are these guys? Do they have an offensive identity? Mike,
they're feisty. They put good at bats together. They don't go down early in the count. They work the pitchers, and they hit the ball all over the field. And I forget to mention that the catalyst, I think, of that team is Freddie Menzel, he plays second base mostly. One of the fastest guys in the entire league, A or AA. If the guy makes contact with the ball and it doesn't go up in the air, it's a single or double every single time. And if that guy gets on base, then the big guys that I mentioned before will follow and get it going. But their entire team, even their not so flashy players, they're a very talented team, and they're well coached, and they don't seem to get too into the moment in a bad way. They're not a bunch of deer in the headlights kind of players. They're solid baseball players, and I think that O'Brien and Brisbane, those guys they're going to have to come to the plate. They're not going to be getting guys to chase balls out of the zone. It's going to be tough for them too.
All right, so you've given us your analysis. Now it's time to make a prediction. We've got a 3-game series: Dodgers, Yankees. Who do you like? How many games?
Well, I'm going to have to go with the Dodgers in 3, simply because of the depth of the lineup and the speed and the arms that they got. I think the Yankees are crafty enough and have enough talent to steal one, but I just don't see that Dodgers team giving in and losing a series. This is their year. They went 20-1 this year, and not all those games were won in dominating fashion, but they just are a team that knows how to win. And I think they rise in these moments as they did against the Mets and the other teams in the postseason. I think it's going to be a tough fight, but I think this is the Dodgers' year.
Well, there you have it. The Kaiser says Dodgers in 3. We'll see how it plays out this weekend. Obviously, we got Game 1 at Clemente, Game 3 at Elm Jack on Sunday morning. So, anyway, I want to thank you for coming on. The Kaiser, it was a great time.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
No problem, and I hope to have you on next year.
All right.
So, switching gears, we're going to talk about the Double-A Championship Series. We got a very unique situation here. We've got the top seed overall in the playoffs, the Bronx D-backs, taking on a team that barely made the playoffs and really surprised a lot of people in the 8th-seeded Storm. So, right now, tried to talk to Pete Alvarez from the D-backs, but he is currently away. So we've got Sammy Ackley from the Storm. He's, the catcher on-field leader for the New York Storm, pulling off a great Cinderella story. Sammy, how's it going, man?
Pretty good, man. Excited to get it going next week.
Oh, I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. Now, I wanted to ask, you guys didn't have the easiest regular season. I think you finished around 10-15. Was there ever any point where you were thinking maybe internally, hey, this might not be our year?
Honestly, to tell you the truth, we came into the season, we thought we had the most talent. We were as talented as any team in the league. Now, we had a pretty rough season, but, once we got into the playoffs, man, it was just, it was like a light switch turned on. We knew that we can play with anybody, and I think the biggest factor was getting the Pirates in the first round. I mean, we've had battles with them last year, this year. They beat us in the first round last year when we had a higher seed in the playoffs. So we really didn't put any emphasis on the regular season. We knew going in that if we played as well as we could play, we knew we could play, that we could beat anybody in the playoffs.
Well, and looking at your first round matchup against the Pirates, and then against when you guys knocked out our team in the second round, you both in both series you came back from first game 1 losses and game 1 losses where you had a lead. The ability to bounce back from that does that say something about kind of the mental makeup of your squad?
Well, when me and Anthony constructed the roster, we thought we brought in a lot of high character guys. We brought in Lamar Burrows and Deshaun Pearson from the Cardinals. They've had experience playing in the playoffs. We also brought in Jeremy White, who was on the Warriors for a while. These were all high character guys that we added on top of that we thought on the roster that we thought we had a bunch of high character guys as well. So those guys have contributed. Adam Greenfield, a longtime Storm member, has played big in the playoffs. We haven't had a full roster every week, so we've plugged guys in, and guys have played exceptionally well. And mental toughness was a huge thing for us through the playoffs. I mean, we've had that first game loss that we had against you guys. A horrible error cost us the game. And we come back and we win 2 games. And John Lanahan pitches game 3. He hasn't started the game all year, and steps up and does his thing. Steven Varela, the one thing that I take away from the playoffs, Steven in that game 3 makes a diving play, with a man on second with 2 outs, but keeps the ball in the infield and keeps the run from scoring. And that, to me, symbolizes how we've played. We've made exceptional plays after, horrific, plays in the field that have cost us games. But mental toughness and perseverance, I think, has carried us. That's a belief that we have talent and that we can bounce back from whatever mistakes we make on the field.
Now, you talked about Lanahan pitching, and obviously, that is a huge game where somebody needs to step up. He does that for you guys. But, when most people think about the pitching that you guys bring to the table, it's obviously with Terrell and with Mike Pena. Most people would identify Pena as your ace, but you've had Terrell starting the game ones. What's the thought process behind there? Is there anything to that, or is it just kind of a, get a guy in when he shows up type thing?
No, we had an idea of how we wanted to attack a 3-game series going in. We are fully confident in Terrell. We know how he can pitch. We know he can pitch right up there with anybody's ace. And we were just really comfortable and confident that Terrell can handle himself on the mound in the game one. He's got the durability to do so. He's also, when he's on. And we knew that, if he can get us out to a 1-game lead, or if he can keep us in the game and we can, squeak one out, that if we can get that 1-game lead, we'd be able to nail it down with Mike right behind him. And, Mike's been a valuable piece to us. I mean, he's 4-0 in the playoffs. But we have just as much confidence in Terrell going out there game one and matching anybody else's starter. And, the thought process was that, if he can keep us there and, we can squeak out a win, Mike can come back in game two and nail it down for us. So that was the thought process going in. Last year we went with, ace versus ace game one. Didn't work out very well for us. And this year we decided to go with what we felt was best.
Now, looking ahead, this is your first ever appearance in the finals?
Yes, it is.
So looking ahead,
6 years on the storm, and it's the first time.
You've got a team in the Bronx D-backs who has been kind of that formidable number one all year. How much do you know about them? Do you have like a scouting report, or what do you know about what they bring to the table?
I'll tell you what, Mike. I really don't know much about them outside of Padilla, about their ace. Mm-hmm. I've heard so many different things about him in terms of how efficient he is on the mound. The fact that he's got so many strikeouts, in 70 innings, and that they're really built around him. They've got 16 wins on the year. I've done a little scouting. They've got 16 wins on the year. Padilla's got 9. So he seems to be right up there with the top starters, if not the top starter in the league.
Now, in terms of
don't really know much about their offense.
I was going to say, in terms of the way that you guys are approaching this game, being as you have kind of had to fight tooth and nail every stretch of the way, do you think that prepares you better for a championship series against a team that's kind of cruised with 3 straight sweeps?
Well, I think the approach that you have to take with a team like this is, let's put them in a dogfight. Let's continue to do what we do. Let's not change how we do things. We're still going to approach it the same way. We still believe that we can play with anybody. And I think you just try to make it tough on them. Put them in a situation where, the pressure's on, and let's see how they respond. Let's see if we can push the envelope and see what happens in the end. I mean, nobody's indestructible. Nobody's invincible. I mean, starters can be hit. We just have to find a way to put the pressure on them. And I think we can do that.
And finally, I know it's only Monday. It is Monday, right?
Yeah, it is Monday.
So you guys are one day removed from your win to put you into the finals. Has there been a lot of chatter back and forth on emails? Like how pumped are you guys right now?
Well, the one I just spoke with Anthony earlier today, and we were talking about the journey. I think that the biggest thing is, this is it's a men's rec league. Most of these guys have played in college on teams, but the biggest thing for us is that the bond, our friendship between teammates has been strengthened through this journey. We've played as a team. We pick each other up after tough losses, and we're all feeling like we've accomplished something together so far, but that there's still work to be done. But we're pumped. We're excited. Guys have been talking about this from the beginning of the year, that we thought we can get this far, we can get here, and to make good on that was a big deal for us. and it's a huge accomplishment for Anthony and myself, and a lot of the guys that have been on the Storm for a while that have suffered some first round losses and tough seasons. And it's a great feeling for the guys that have just come on, to help us get to where we're at. So, we're all excited. We're all waiting to get on the field and get this thing going.
Well, Sammy, again, congratulations for the year you had. Again, I wish you hadn't beat us to get there. But, obviously I wish you get the best of luck representing the Brooklyn Queens division in the championships.
Thanks, Mike. No, man, it was great playing you guys. Much respect, much love to all the teams. And then NYCMBL, and we're hoping to bring it back for Brooklyn Queens.
All right, sounds good, man. Thanks a lot. So there you have it. The stage is set. 4 teams, 2 championship series, 1 great summer of baseball. Can't wait to see everyone out at the All-Star Game on September 8th. And until then, stay healthy, stay happy, and keep it between the lines.